What is up, guys? Brad here bringing you guys another OBA match. This is week 14 or 15. I lost track, and to be honest, I really don't give a shit at this point. If you guys are new, feel free to leave a subscription down below. That'd be awesome. And leave a like as well. That always helps me out, and it's greatly appreciated. I got a lot of shit on my mind. I want to go over my team first and then say my overall thoughts. I have a lot of shit I want to get out in this video about this match. I literally had this match around about 15 to 20 minutes ago, so a bit hot coming out of this match as well. So just to let you guys know, bringing a Kami got kill base team, I guess with nicknames, but in the end, it didn't really matter. No, it didn't. Bringing the Mega Absol this week. I was originally going to run Wish and Baton Pass on this Absol, but my Jenner could not get Wish. I'm not quite sure how much it really mattered in this match. Possibly I could have used Wish in this match, but I actually changed out with Sword Stance. So SD, Baton Pass, Knockoff, and the Sucker Punch, Max Attack, Max Speed, Jolly, Night Raid, the Mega Absol. We got Akame, the Choice Scarf, Manaphy, with the U-Turn, Scald, Energy Ball, and the Ice Beam. Max Touch Attack, Max Speed with the Team in Nature. We got Leone, the Lantern, special defensive this week, one of my cores. Max Touch Defense, Max HP, running T-Bolt, Volt Switch, Scald, and Ice Beam, kind of standard set with the leftovers. Bulat, the Swallow, running a kind of a different set on this. Pretty much standard, but one move is different. With the Toxic Orb this week. Just thought I'd try it to see how Toxic Orb, apart from Flame Orb, would do. Running the Brave Bird, U-Turn, Facade, and the Substitute. Plan was maybe I could set up a Substitute and then take a free hit and stuff like that and dish out some damage. That was my play behind that. Bringing Najanda, the Cresselia, Max Defense, Max Special Defense. He really has no answers to Crest, and there's a few opportunities where I could possibly set up with this thing, so especially against the Umbreon, which really can't touch me with foul play. I also have this 0 attack IVs and a minus attack nature, so I was prepared for foul play with this thing against the Umbreon, which was one of the things I really wanted to set up on. Ring the Moonblast, Psychic, Calm Mind, and Sub. Was really relying on the leftovers as well to get my HP back since I am not running Moonlight, so that's something I had to look out for any knockoff users. Running a defensive Arcanine, mainly just for the Salamence. It counters Salamence decently well, apart from Earthquake, but Earthquake is still not a 2 KO after Intimidate drop, so that was my play behind that. And Arcanine works decently well. It shut down the Escavalier, it shut down the Virizion, which my opponent could have brought as well. Which also were a few possibilities. It shuts down Mawile. Mawile can't touch it very well. So running the Rocky Helmet with, I think it's Morning Sun, Flare Blitz, Willow, and originally I was running actually Wild Charge, but I actually changed out with Roar a little bit before the battle, just because I kind of wanted something in case he tries to set up with something as well. My opponent's probably a setup monster, probably one of the people in the league that really tries to take advantage of setup lately. As for my opponent, I actually predicted him to bring the Virizion. I'm not quite sure why he never brought the Virizion or the Escavalier, just because they match up and hit so damn hard against my draft. My opponent actually brings the Volcanion, which I do have an answer for in Lantern, but apart from that, I really didn't expect him to bring the Volcanion. It gets really, really bodied and it's super slow and it's weak to Stealth Rock. I really did not expect him to bring it this week. But he actually ends up bringing it, so a little bit of an issue, probably the thing that probably gave me the most trouble on his team. Other than that, I have counters for pretty much everything. I'm going to hop into this match. Now I'm going to lead with Night Raid, the Mega Absol here, just because I was either predicted the Volcanion or the Zangoose lead. Either Zangoose or I think it was Latios as well. I could always Sucker Punch there as well. So, gonna get my Mega off here. I get a free Baton Pass out here. So I get a free Mega off. That's very, very nice. So good start to the match here. I also prepared very, very well, and I also played very, very well in this match. Gonna go out into Leone here, the Lantern, just to absorb a Steam Eruption. Now, there was a possibility of him actually carrying the Earth Power, but Earth Power still wasn't going to be doing too much, and I could easily play around it. I put more pressure on him than he does on me, so I actually go for the Volt Switch here. He actually stays in. I'm really surprised about this. Maybe he was scouting for the burn here. I'm not quite sure. I don't know why he stays in, but maybe I should have went for the Thunderbolt right here. I really thought he was going to go out into the Latios. Either Latios or the Umbreon here was going to come in. Thunderbolt probably would have been a 2-hit kill, and I could have had this thing out of here in a long, little bit easier and a little bit sooner. I'm going to go out into the Swallow here. I could have went for the Facade, but from this range, it does not kill, and depending if he's running like max HP or any defensive investments, it'll even do less. So, I'm gonna go for the U-turn, get a little bit of chip damage off, basically leftovers damage that was, and gonna go right out into the Lantern again. Now my Lantern's getting a little bit worn down here. I really doesn't have any recovery. Again, I had Wish on Mega Absol, but my Jenner could not get it. So, again, not quite sure how much that mattered, but that was one of the things with the team. Maybe past Wishes into Lantern, into Crest, things that did not have recovery. So that was one of my things behind having Wish on Mega Absol in this match, but I do not have it. So gonna have to play with what I have at this point. He predicts Thunderbolt here, so good play by my opponent. He actually ends up going out into the Latios, or Latios. Does like absolutely nothing. Now right here, I actually was going to stay and actually go for the Ice Beam. It really didn't pay. Even if he wanted to drop a Draco, I could live. And I really had nothing else that really wanted to take a Draco at this point, so I had to let Lantern take the Draco here. I do find out he's actually Life Orb here, and he actually is pretty much fully invested by that damage as well. Eat it up. He actually ends up getting a low roll, I think, as well. I actually calculated and it was a bit of a low roll there. I get the Volt Switch off, and I'm able to go freely out into Mega Absol and pressure this thing out. Now, if I would have carried Pursuit right here, this thing would have been dead. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe I should have carried Pursuit in this match, but I really thought my opponent was going to predict a Pursuit and play accordingly. But I actually ended up going for the knockoff right here. He is going to bring out into the Zangoose, which this thing pretty much dies. I don't know. It looks like my opponent actually just sacks Zangoose here. If I were him, I went out into the Umbreon at least. But he actually pretty much just sacks Zangoose, which I'm fine with at this point in the match. Zangoose is a heavy hitter that kind of threatens Cresselia, depending if it's running knockoff or stuff like that, and it hits very hard. It has decent speed. I'll speed a lot of my things, so and it possibly might outspeed actually my Arcanine because I'm not invested in speed. So that was a huge threat out of the way. He does go into the Raikou here, and being shiny, it's one of my favorite Pokemon. I should know what Raikou does, and being shiny, it is an event Raikou, so it either has extreme speed or the Aura Sphere. I predict the Aura Sphere and go out into Najinta here. And by the way he switched out here, this thing is either Choice Scarf or Choice Specs, so that is a huge problem if it's Choice Scarf because it outspeeds my Manaphy. And I really have no counter, and once my Lantern is gone, I have nothing that really stops Volt Switching. So I set up a sub here, actually predicting either the Umbreon to come in here or the Volcanion again. He does go into the Umbreon here. He goes for the foul play, but I'm prepared for it. No attack IVs, minus attack nature. It takes 2 of them to actually break my sub. Maybe if I would have ran max HP, it would actually been like a 3-hit KO on my sub, and I could have set up a bit more. But I wanted the defense investment just because I wanted to eat hits from other things as well, and maybe switch thing on hits. Doing pretty good here. I actually want to set up as much as I can. I need to at least get to like +5 to start doing decent damage and pretty much take out the Volcanion from the range it's at. And to start doing decent damage to this Umbreon, I need to at least get to +4 or +5 as well. So that's the reason why I keep setting up here. I do have the Moonblast for this thing. Maybe he thinks I have nothing to touch this thing with, but I do have the Moonblast. I just need to get set up enough to where I can at least do decent damage to this thing. Otherwise, if I go Moonblast now, it really isn't not going to be doing too much, and he'll just recover it all back with Wish or leftovers, possibly later in the match. So he is going to go into the Volcanion here. Now, this did raise a red flag for me here. I really did not know what this thing was going to do to me. It does get access to Roar, which I did know, but I took a chance here, saying that he did not have Roar, and he was just trying to go for possibly break the sub or something. Maybe he was mixed. I'm not quite sure. But I took a chance here, saying that he would not have Roar, but he possibly could have Roar, the way he just sent it in. If I would have Psychic here, I would have got a huge amount of damage off, but I take the risk, go for another Calm Mind. My opponent actually does actually end up having the Roar, so that's kind of bad for me. Probably one of my win conditions just got roared out, so that I probably could have possibly swept his team if I did not get roared out. Psychic would not have killed though, so it was kind of inevitable. Let's get roared out into Lubbock here. I cannot have this thing in. I need this thing around for the Salamence specifically. Once Salamence is gone, I can pretty much stack my Arcanine if I need to. That's really the only thing it's around for, and possibly the Umbreon to get Willow off and some decent damage. But other than that, I really don't need it. Gonna go into Lantern here. He pretty much had no drawback, just clicking Steam Eruption. So Lantern was the thing I had to sack. I kind of wanted to keep it around for the Raikou just for Volt Absorb pressure, but I had to switch into something there, and this thing is a very big, huge threat for me. Really did not prepare and not expect him to bring the Volcanion this week. I'm going to go into the Swellow here. Swellow is probably the one thing I least needed the most for heavy hitters. It does outspeed the Latios, but it really didn't matter if his Choice Scarfed or his Raikou was Choice Scarfed. So Steam Eruption, he actually ends up getting a high roll there. I possibly could have lived that, but he does get a high roll, so that kind of sucks. Facade does decent amount, but judging by that, he is pretty much, I think he's fully invested in HP by that damage as well. I'm going to go into Mega Absol here. Now, I could have went for the knockoff, but knockoff would not have taken him out. I had to go for the Sucker Punch, and what do you know? Sucker Punch gives me another low roll. I had to take a shitload of damage here, which kind of sucks. I end up living. My opponent actually ends up getting a low roll of himself. It did have a possibility of OHKOing me, but he actually ends up getting a low roll. So I guess low roll for low roll there. On my side, it matters a lot more, though. Just because now he can freely go into Raikou here, and if his Raikou is Choice Scarfed, that is going to be a huge problem for me in the rest of this game. And judging by the way he's brought this thing in, it probably is Choice Scarfed at this point, so I am switching out right here. I have to go into Najinta. That's the only thing I really have for this thing at this point. My Lantern is gone. This thing is probably going to be the thing that possibly wins my opponent the game if I don't play accordingly. And he has to go for the Volt Switch. I could have possibly Sucker Punch there, but Sucker Punch only does 68 to 75%, so I need some damage on this thing to take it out. I just go into Salamence here. Now, judging by this, I could have Moonblasted here. I definitely could, but I had the Arcanine in the back, so I have to actually switch out to the Arcanine here. Maybe I should have stayed in and actually Moonblasted, but Najinta was so important just to keep a switch into the Raikou, so I needed to keep it around. Gonna go into the Arcanine here. Now, he is at -1, but he actually ends up going for the Dragon Dance, so he's back at neutral, which kind of sucks because Earthquake is actually, I think, possibly a 2 KO now. Depends on his roll, and of course, my opponent actually ends up getting a high roll again here. It was a roll. Depends on being a 2 KO, and he does get a high roll, like I said. So I go for the Willow here. I was debating whether to go for Willow or the Roar. I really did not think he was going to be running the Lumberry. What the hell? My opponent actually ends up running the Lumberry, so possibly should have roared there, which kind of sucks because now he's going to get a Moxie boost, but since he's only at +1 speed, I can deal with this thing and pretty much take it out with Manaphy here. He does not know my Manaphy is Choice Scarfed at this point. So I can at least take this thing out and clean this thing out and get rid of it off the field. At this point, it's a very close match. I think it's 3-3 for both of us now, so it's a very close match. My opponent does have the advantage, though. Scarf Raikou pretty much just wrecks the last 3 of my Mons. It wrecks Manaphy. I cannot take two Thunderbolts with, or I cannot take, I cannot take Thunderbolt on a switch-in to Najinta here, but I actually pretty much have to go out on Najinta here. I cannot let my Manaphy take damage. I can take 1 Thunderbolt with Manaphy, and what do you know, my opponent actually ends up getting a crit, which actually does matter. It was a 2-hit KO, and there was a possibility of him actually getting a low roll and me possibly living on the second Thunderbolt, so it actually did matter there, the crit. Now I go into Absol. I pretty much have to click Sucker Punch here. I needed this Raikou to at least get down to the point where I can come in and click Scald. Just because my opponent actually has the Umbreon around. I have nothing for Umbreon now. Umbreon pretty much wins my opponent the game at this point. I do not carry Play Rough. I have nothing on Manaphy that can really touch this thing. And then at this point, I have to lock myself into Ice Beam just because he has the Latias in the back. I take a foul play here, and judging by this damage, it might be a 2 or 3 KO, depending on his rolls here. So I go for the Ice Beam, hoping to get a freeze. I end up getting a freeze, actually. I was like, oh shit, yeah, hell yeah, I get a freeze. What do you know, he actually thaws out turn 1. So I was like, oh shit, fuck this shit. He actually carries Yawn as well, so he pretty much sealed the game by going for Yawn there. I pretty much lose at this point to Scarfed Raikou. Sucker Punch without a crit does not kill the Raikou, and even at that point, I have nothing for Umbreon, so My opponent pretty much wins the game at this point. I had to go for the Ice Beam just because he had the Latios in the back. If it wouldn't went for Scald, he pretty much freely came in with Latios and dropped a Draco. So either would have to sack Absol, and Absol is one of my win conditions with Manaphy. I need to get the Sucker Punch damage off on the Raikou, and pretty much I had no point of winning at that point. So I do admit my opponent did get a lot of very, very lucky high rolls in this match. He did get 1 or 2 low rolls though, but it really mattered on his side getting the high rolls a lot more than when I actually did like 1 or 2 times. So my opponent really getting lucky in this match. I have to set up a Sword Stance here. That's the only way I can possibly have a chance of winning. I would have went for the knockoff. I would not have won. He does go for foul play. It does take me out no matter what. So we end up losing our second match, guys. I told you guys when we're going to be doing rematches. I am very, very bad with rematches. Even though last week I did get fucked over by hacks. It was our week to win. We did win that. Pretty much we technically won last week, even though we got fucked over by hacks and we actually lost technically. But I'm not going to hold anything against us on last week because last week was pretty much RNG hacks fucking us over. I played very, very good last week. It was our match to win. Just the hacks in the end end up fucking us over and actually giving the win to our opponent. So, but this week here, maybe I could have prepared a little bit more. Volcanion was a huge threat this match that I really didn't have no answers for. And Scarf Raikou, props to my opponent for bringing Scarf Raikou. I had really no answers for it late game. I really thought Lantern was going to be the thing that countered it the most. That's really the reason why Lantern was there, to counter Raikou and prevent Volt switching. But once Lantern dropped, I really had no answer for Scarf Raikou. So props to my opponent for bringing Scarf Raikou, catching me off guard. Really good set on his part, I guess. But he definitely did get lucky there with that crit as well. Crit on the Crest, which some people are going to say it really didn't matter, but in my opinion it did matter to me because there was always a possibility of him getting a lower roll on the second Thunderbolt and actually living and possibly getting a little bit of psychic damage off, which I'm not quite sure how much it would matter, but it could have put me in range where a possibility where Sucker Punch could have possibly killed him. You never know. So Grass Plains Raikous are now, I think, 7 and 6. We are currently this week, before this week ends, we are on top of our division with a 7-5 ratio. Everybody else in the division is actually 6-6, so they're even win-loss ratio. With this being a 3-0 win in my opponent's favor, we're going to get minus 3 differential. So it's definitely going to be very, very hard to come back from this loss, guys. I'm not quite sure if we're going to make it to playoffs this season. Next week, my opponent pretty much has the draft that pretty much stacks my draft. Pretty much anything my opponent brings, he pretty much can win against me, to be honest. I know I can probably try as hard as I can to actually win against him, but he has such a good draft that pretty much counters any possibility of what I wanted to bring. He pretty much has, it's mostly hyper offense, I guess. But there is a few things maybe I can try to take advantage of. I don't know, I'm going to try doing a at least decent team builder, or a very, very good team builder next week. Even though I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose. It's all going to come down to who wins and loses next week, and who else actually wins and loses this week. So basically, if John Mark wins this week, I think he'll actually be top of the division. I'll be second in the division, depending on how much differential I have right now. I'm not quite sure. I think I'm at +7. Not quite sure how much my opponent actually has, but my opponent's going to be at 7-6, or yeah, 7-6. Same with me. So I'm not quite sure. Depends who wins this other week, this match, or the other match this week. Attack on Samurott versus John Mark, and then next week it's going to be me versus John Mark, and then John 2 versus Samurott. It pretty much depends. If Samurott wins next week against John 2, which I'm not quite sure what happens. It's pretty much anyone's game between John 2 and actually Samurott next week. It's going to be pretty much coming down to who can either prep or possibly get a upper edge on their opponent next week. It's pretty much an even game between those two. If Samurott wins, we still may have a possibility of actually going to playoffs. If I win next week, we're pretty much guaranteed playoffs. Even though if I probably do win, it's probably going to be either a 1 or 2-0. But I think the win will matter, and if we do win next week, we will go to playoffs, guys. However, that's going to be, it's easier said than done. I'm going to have to prepare super well. My opponent has such a good matchup against my draft, guys. You do not know how much good of a matchup he has against my draft. He has such a good matchup. He had a super good matchup the first time we played him, and he actually ended up winning. I think it was, we had a very good chance actually winning last time, but he actually ended up bringing a Scarf Infernape, which I'm going to prepare for as well. Other than that, hopefully, guys, I did tell you guys what's going to happen. It's all going to come down to who else wins and loses this week, and then next week, who wins the second match between Samrat and John 2, my opponent this week, and whoever wins between me and John Mark. So I'm assuming I'm going to lose against John Mark. That's what I'm really going to go into it with. I'll prepare a very, very nice team, and I'll prepare as much as I can, but I really pretty much going to lose. I'm trying to bring the differential down at least as much as I can, at least. Maybe I'll have a possibility of going to playoffs, but I really need to pull off an upset next week to be guaranteed to playoffs. If not, it was a good season, guys, but I'm not going to say that too early. We still do have a chance, and I really need to make my team preparations very, very well next week. So other than that, hopefully I got all the shit off my chest about what playoffs and what needs to happen for us to go to playoffs, the Grass Plains Raikous. But if you guys enjoy this and the little rant at the end, drop a sub, that'd be awesome, and drop a like as well, really appreciate it. That being said, we get later. Hope you guys enjoy. See you guys next week. Peace.